Greetings, brothers and sisters. So let's start here with Jojo Magoo.
Notwithstanding the brutality of Vladimir Putin, let there be no doubt that this war has already been a strategic failure for Russia.
He's a concern trail. He's a concern troll. Concern trail. He's a concern troll. He's just so like, oh, Putin, your war is going so poorly.
Already.
Woo! Woo! It's a strategic failure. Woo!
Having lost children myself, I know that's no solace to the people who've lost family. But he, Putin, thought Ukrainians would roll over and not fight. Not much of a student of history.
You know, he's been saying that that the Ukrainians are, like I covered this yesterday, and I want to, feed into that too. That he's been saying that the Ukrainians have incredible guts and whatever it was, huge spines and guts. But they're Russian people, right? The Ukrainian people and the Russian people are indistinguishable, right? And so, like, there's a difference in their language and things. But like I said, it's like Americans and Canadians, but even more so. Like I said, when in the Heartfulness ashrams, there are Ukrainian and Russian people, and they're always hanging out together because they're, very similar. And so, like he's made it about this thing like they're two distinct, different groups of people, right? Ukrainians fighting for their freedom. But anyways, let's go back to it.
Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia, for free people refused to live in a world of hopelessness and darkness. We will have a different future, a brighter future, rooted in democracy and principles, hope and light, of decency and dignity, of freedom and possibilities. For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
And so he's just talking about freedom, and then he's saying that somebody else's leader can't remain in power. Like the hypocrisy here, right? One great man said, it's off the charts.
The hypocrisy is off the charts, and it is sickening.
Because you can't say that you're a free country and you're for free countries and constantly be manipulating their leadership. America has changed leadership in countries over and over again. There's a guy who talked about this, and there's an animated video called "How the CIA Kills Countries." Forget the guy's name, but he's written a book about this. He talked about how they send in the jackals, which are like hitmen, and first they try to buy the leader, right? They try to purchase the leader, and then if that doesn't work, they send in the jackals to get rid of the guy. If that doesn't work, they send in the military or they try to get the people riled up, and then they send in the military. They have these various stages of changing leaders, and we've seen it over and over again. We saw it in, all the way back in Iran, and that backfired. I mean, to what Iran is now. And maybe it didn't backfire for their overall strategy. The guy's name is John Perkins, and he wrote a book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman. There used to be a lot of videos out on YouTube where he is talking about this. Any whistleblower that is, I always have questions about these whistleblowers, like Snowden or, all these other guys. Anybody that's like an official whistleblower, there's usually, something else there. And I would say maybe the same thing about John Perkins. But what he says is, there's things that he says that are obviously factual. And he knows what he's talking about. It's not like he, whatever reason he's out there, there's some truth in what he says. And there's a pattern of behavior here, which people in the truth community know about, that there has been a co-opting of one country after another, getting a central bank similar to the Fed that we have, our Federal Reserve Bank, in every country around the world, and controlling the leadership there and making it a global economy. And, the CIA has been a big part of that, right? America has, but it's, a global movement. And so this is what Jojo Magoo is like referring to here. But it is something where you're talking about being a free country, but controlling the leaders. Who's the leaders in other countries, right? Which is so arrogant and so evil. The Russians have, they have their choice of who's who's going to be a leader, right? I mean, whatever corruption exists, whatever stuff's happening there, that's their country. And they've done this with Gaddafi, and he gave up all his weapons of mass destruction, and his country was doing great. His, country went from the poorest country in Africa when he took over to the richest country in Africa. He was, on the verge of achieving the Millennium Development Goals. I've talked about this in so many videos. They did regime change with Saddam Hussein. They did regime change. They're trying to do it in Syria. And they always talk about how evil the guy is and, how he's being, a tyrant or whatever it is, right? And then they say, well, you got to get rid of him. And they can say that about anybody, including private citizens. They can just demonize you and say, we're going to get rid of you. So this is the ultimate in not being about freedom, right? When you're talking about changing leaders in other countries, and this guy, I mean, he's just a complete tool of the establishment. And anyways, there's only one way to change it. The leadership would be to assassinate. There's two ways: to assassinate him or World War III. Because I don't think Russia is, going to get rid of them themselves. And so this is like him basically saying, we got to go in there and get rid of this guy. And the only way to do that is World War III and, nukes, right? So that's where we are right now. Now, the New York Post had an article about how Joe Magoo got confused during this speech, and it was a disaster. It was supposed to be some commander-in-chief going to Europe, and, like this would be in World War II, and giving some rousing speech against tyranny, right? But apparently he gets lost and confused, so I might cover that later in this video. I'm not sure. It would be at the end. If not, I'll take a look at it probably tomorrow. I got a bunch of other stuff to get to. The Dave Grohl thing and how that connects with Bob Saget, and Sad Dumpling has some weird thing that she's just saying. But if I have enough time, I'll come back to this. Ukrainian President Zelensky in talks with Academy to make Oscars appearance. Well, yeah, he's an actor, so I mean, this is how he made his claim to fame, by being a comedian. And so, he's going to go to the Oscars. Then I saw this. Sean Penn vows to destroy Academy Award if Zelensky is invited to speak at Oscars. He's on with this guy, this pillar of journalism. And he's going to CNN regularly as somebody who met with Zelensky the day before the invasion, because that's how important he is, because he's Spicoli. And if somebody's like speaking truth to power, like Sean Penn pretends he does, he would speak truth to power in the United States. It would not go on this shill governmental propaganda network, CNN.
Sean, you've been doing some amazing work over there. You're in Warsaw right now. Tell us what you're seeing on the ground, and what stands out.
It's like you're a reporter, Sean Spicoli.
To you after spending so much time in that region.
Well, I guess, in a great oversimplification, you've got two immediate crises. One is the refugee crisis of those.
So the refugee crisis that happened in America's illegal wars in these various countries. People spilling in from Iraq and Syria into Europe and changing the whole demographic of those countries, right? And this guy wasn't there. He wasn't on the ground for any of these legal wars and, these manipulative wars in Europe and things like this. I mean, in the Arab Spring Wars for America. But now for this, he's there. Refugees. He's such a concerned citizen, this wonderful actor.
Was coming into Poland and other border nations. And then this horrifying thing, this horror that's going on in Ukraine. And I guess just as more importantly, perhaps, is the extraordinary courage and unification of Ukraine and of its leadership.
The courage and the leadership there. This guy Zelensky, this guy is some great leader.
And you're the co-founder of CORE, as we said, and we want to put up some information on the screen for people. If they want to donate, they can text.
You can donate to Sean Penn's. He's got a foundation for this kind of thing.
Well, because I'm in Poland, I should say that one of the things that stands out here is the extraordinary heart that the Polish people and government.
The Polish people, they have huge hearts, just giant hearts, almost as big as the guts and the spines of the Ukrainians. They're known for their huge hearts, whereas the Ukrainians have monster spines and guts. I mean, they all got their inflated organs. Right? Every country in this area, except for Russians, they all have inflated organs that just, big giant organs that speak to the character of the people.
To ask you about this, Sean, because you met with President Zelensky in Ukraine right when this war began.
The day before, when the Russians were about to invade, this guy Zelensky had time for the great actor Sean Penn. They sat down. Here they are, a couple of brave men in T-shirts and sitting there talking about, shooting the shit.
He has become, and we're looking at some video of this right now, he has become a hero to people around the world for the way he's led his people courageously and standing up.
He's a hero, this guy. Used to be a comedian, now he's a hero. He's got hero written all over him.
To the Russian invasion. Did you get that sense of what he was made of when you were talking to him at the time, and what has been your impression since this war has begun? I mean, this is the guy who said, I don't need a ride out of town, I need ammunition.
Yeah, this guy, he's gonna fight till the last breath, that guy, right? And even when the Russians come, they're never gonna take him, right? This guy is like a celebrity shill now.
Yes, I had met with the president the day before the invasion, and met with him again during the invasion.
Jim Costa is such a tool. Look at him.
What I would say is I can't imagine any human being would have fully known that they were born for this moment.
And he was. It was like it's written like a Hollywood script.
Till this moment would have happened. And so I would say certainly on Thursday, I was with as moving, as courageous, as extraordinary a person and face of his extraordinary country and people as I would expect I ever will witness, and certainly that I ever have. An incredibly moving human being in this minute of time we're all sharing.
And have you had a chance to speak with him since your meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, because he's not busy or anything. He's got time for a Hollywood actor.
And how did that go? How was that?
All I'll say, I'll just for the moment echo that aspect of it. That it continues, and I don't know the consensus with the documentary team I'm with. If I had something that I thought was more valuable to tell you, for the greater problem right now, I would.
He's making a documentary. I don't want to leak out my documentary footage because I want to make some money off of it.
But right now, I'm going to kind of, refrain.
I totally understand. And as you know, Sean, the Oscars are tomorrow night.
They are. They're big time.
Do you want to see President Zelensky speak at the Oscars via some sort of video link? And how do you think the ceremony, how the event should recognize what is happening in Ukraine? What would you say, I guess, if you were there up on stage?
I'm glad you asked that question.
Yeah, and I didn't see this question coming at all. I wasn't prepared for it, and we didn't talk about this beforehand.
Because, there are those, and I think it sometimes has validity, who would say that, politics are for another place, entertainment is for another.
What we would say is that you guys are perpetual liars. You're fakers, pretenders. You pretend to be other people, and it's entertaining. And you make a lot of money, and, people trust you, and you have a brand, right? But that doesn't make you experts in politics, and you guys only have one politics, and that's the politics of the so-called rich elite. Any Hollywood celebrity that comes in with a different opinion is basically crucified in some way, right? And so you guys have one liberal, neoliberal agenda that goes along with the UN and all these, shill organizations, the Council on Foreign Relations and things like this. And so you guys represent an arrogance, right, that doesn't translate well to us who are conscious and don't believe that you guys are special, you know, that you guys are special or good people, like you're the worst people. And so we don't want to hear about your point of view. I mean, you can say it, but using these platforms and stages to push an agenda that's very similar to the agenda that's being pushed by the powers that be. You guys never speak truth to power. If you did that, it'd be something different, right? But if they did that, you wouldn't be in the movie business anymore, because those are the guys who pay your checks, right? The people who are in true power pay your checks, so they provide for your lavish lifestyle. So it's, you know, the only people that have a voice in Hollywood are the ones that are the biggest shills, and he is as big a shill as anybody else. Like trying to be some like career faketivist now. Like he's more of a faketivist than he's an actor.
I believe that anyone, as an audience or a practitioner of film, that understands what that expression is, that to restrict it to just film is to say it can't be on television, it can't be on the stage. To restrict it to any of those is to say it can't be embodied within a human being, that kind of nature of poetic courage and expression that
that makes up this wonderful former comedian.
Film aspires at its best to be. There is nothing greater that the Academy Awards could do than to give him that opportunity to talk to all of us. And by the way, this is a man who understands movies and had his own very long...
He's an actor. He's a, you know, this guy's like an actor.
Successful career in that. Now, it is my understanding that a decision has been made not to do it. That is not me commenting on whether or not President Zelensky had wanted to. If the Academy has elected not to do it, if presenters have elected not to pursue the leadership in Ukraine who are taking bullets and bombs for us along with...
For us? For us. They're not taking them for us. Like, what are you talking about? Well, maybe because, you know, this was caused by Kamala Harris and all these, you know, people that wanted the Ukraine to join NATO, which caused this conflict in the first place. But they're not taking bullets for us, right? Isn't like this, like Putin is just going to roll over all these countries and be in America after he conquers Europe. That's not going to happen. Like he's going to stop at the Ukraine. He's not going to go into any of these other countries. If he did, it'll be World War III, and it'll be, you know, us taking bullets for Europe, right? But he's not threatening America. America's threatening him, and has been for, you know, ever since the thing happened when America had that illegal, you know, military action in Syria, and he blocked it. And he's been on the target list of the powers that be. We have a superior military force to his, and, you know, this is going to end up World War III, and China's probably going to side with Russia. I mean, if, you know, predictions are there, and it's going to end up poorly for America. And this, you know, people like this.
The Ukrainian children that they are trying to protect, then I think every single one of those people and every bit of that decision will have been the most obscene moment in all of Hollywood history. And I
and there's been a lot of them.
Hope that's not what's happening. If it turns out to be what's happening, I would encourage everyone involved to know that though it may be their moment, and I understand that, to celebrate their films, it is
shamelessly pat themselves on the back.
So much more importantly their moment to shine and to protest and to boycott that Academy Awards. And I myself, if it comes back to it, when I return, I will smelt mine in public. I pray that...
He's going to smelt it. He's going to smelt his Oscar. Sean Penn vows to smelt. He's smelting it. Whoever smelt it dealt it, Sean.
When I return, I will smelt mine in public.
He's going to smelt his in public. Don't smelt anything in public. That's just... When he gets back to his Hollywood home after doing all this courageous work as a faketivist, he's going to smelt the crap out of his Oscar. Don't smelt it. Don't smelt it, Sean.
I pray that's not what's happened. I pray there have not been arrogant...
You're praying that this is the arrogance of Hollywood isn't going to overrun and keep Zelensky from his appointed task of appearing on... You know, the Oscars has always been the worst of these these award shows where Hollywood pats itself on the back. They just, award themselves over and over again. And it's horrible. Like, it's just embarrassing. And the shows, like, are life-sucking. And, they go on forever. They're too long. And then they started bringing in these faketivists who had these political agendas, and they're all one-sided, and it makes it even worse. It's, like, unwatchable. Like, my whole life, every time I started watching the Oscars, I was like, oh, my God, I forgot how bad this sucked, right? And so in that, they want to bring Zelensky in, who's some fake, actor who's playing a role in this, whatever the heck's going on here in front of us as they, push to, reset the world with this World War III agenda. There's these prophecies and heartfulness that talk about nuclear power ruining this world, and this is, the beginning of it, right? It's supposed to start in 4 years, I believe, if it's that, the first event. And so, they're on a pathway now to using nuclear weapons, which inevitably was going to happen. Because once they made them, they were going to be used. That's just how things are. And, to put it out there, like him going to the Academy Awards Zelensky is going to change anything. Americans' opinions of what's going on in Russia is going to change anything, right? It's ridiculous. Because the only thing that Americans can do is get behind Biden's push for World War III. That's all Americans can do, is consent to war, yet another illegal BS war, based in some faulty, fake false flag type of situation or something. Especially after the debacle where there was the Iraq and Afghanistan and Libyan wars that everyone kind of knows is fake, right? Destroying those countries and their leadership and regime change, leaving those countries worse off. And they're, an embarrassment. And I think most people get that. And the Republicans, who have long been, patriotic Republican voters and have sent their kids to war, are now like, not into it, right? Based on everything that's happened. And so there's no push in America to go to World War III with Russia. And these clowns, these clowns are really, doing everything they can to make that happen because they're horrible people, right?
People who consider themselves representatives of the greater good in my industry that have not decided to check in with leadership in Ukraine.
Okay. That's enough of this guy. He's just Spicoli. Spicoli and the great comedian that is Zelensky, Voldemort Zelensky, are pals.
Just got out. It's just a regular gas pump. You pay.
So this was interesting. Like one of my viewers sent me this, I think, on Instagram. It's a TikTok video.
Let me take you inside. Like I say, there's no attendance.
It's interesting that it says Patriot Gas.
There's nobody here.
Patriot 24.
As you go in, there's nothing. There's nobody. There's not a window. There's nothing. See, it says pay at the pump only, no cash accepted. There's your coffee, ice. I'm making a video of this.
So, this is the way of the future, and it makes sense from a business perspective. They're getting rid of labor costs, and, there's just not enough people. I mean, there's fast food restaurants around me that aren't open now all the time. Their operating hours are different because of not being able to get enough employees. And they're paying, like $13 an hour or something like this, right? Like I know some of these things personally. And so there's businesses that are closing and labor costs are going way up. And, because of the inflation, and then prices are going up, and businesses are going to start folding even, more so than they were after COVID. And one of the ways to get around that is get rid of your employees or create, robot type of employees, right? You're going to see this less and less of, human to human interaction.
I ain't never seen nothing like this. You talk about minimum wage going up? This is what's going to happen. There's nobody here to pay.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
This thing is going to be called.
Mm-hmm. All of these machines are automated. And all you do is come over here and you touch the screen. You pick what you want. Like if I wanted a drink, drink. Let's take sodas. Soda. There's all the sodas. You put your money in the machine, and the sodas are down here. They drop down. Now let me show you the bathroom. There's the ladies. There's the men's. Restrooms, purchase required. Code on the bottom of receipt. You have to purchase gas outside to get a code. You punch it in right here.
And so, yeah, this is happening, right? This is the, wave of the future. So you're going to see either robots or no people at all or whatever, just automated, everything automated. This is a sense of robot. Everything in there is computerized. They probably have lots of video cameras. Everything's secure. They don't have any, the ability to lose anything in terms of shoplifting and whatever it is. But this is the wave of the future. The person who sent me this said Bob Saget just won't go away, and I agree with that. Bob Saget tribute coming to Netflix. The special featuring Chris Rock, John Mayer, John Stamos. John Stamos is going to be there for some reason. Jim Carrey and his widow, Kelly Rizzo, will be released in June because Netflix has to, get in on this in some way, right? So there's lots of media coverage of this guy, Taylor Hawkins. And so it says, Dave Grohl treasured Taylor Hawkins. I would take a bullet for my foo brother. And, I recently covered this. Dave Grohl was in there's a trailer for this movie that's about Satan worship, or about them going to some house of hell. And there's that unfunny comedian. And it is called Studio 666, right? And so they go into this house and they're making an album, and it's got all this satanic, it's like a house from hell. And so they're making a film called Studio 666. And then shortly thereafter, or, the trailers are out, the movie hasn't been released, one of the members is dead, right? And so, think about that. Plus, Dave Grohl has made it mandatory that all the people that come to his shows have to get something, including this guy, right? His drummer, who he says he loves, who's now dead. And so think about those two things. You can research both of them. The second one, you can, find more about that. And the guy, the drummer, was actually anti the thing that he had to get. It says Foo Fighters drummer Taylor Hawkins found with multiple substances in hotel room, report says. Now I think they're saying he's been blood tested. He had all this stuff in his system. And of course that's something they can easily blame on, drugs, because he was, a rock and roll musician, and that's something they always do. But think about the number of these celebrities who've died in hotels, right? And so just off the top of my head, we have, of course, Bob Saget, that happened recently. And them dying in hotels is something that's easier to execute something like this. A hotel is easier to pull something off than going into somebody's home, right? Just for the obvious reasons. But then we have David Carradine. Remember that guy, Kung Fu guy. And then we have these other, there was that guy who, Chris Cornell, killed himself with exercise band. And then this guy, Chester Bennington, followed it right after that, right? I know Chris Cornell was in a hotel room, and I think Chester Bennington's was also in a hotel room. And so those are some that I can just think off the top of my head. But dying in a hotel room makes it easier, right? Going to somebody's home, there's, family members there. I mean, if, they die alone in their hotels. And it makes it easy because there's no witnesses, there's no anything, right? And, hotel people are coming and going all the time. And so all they have to do is get the hotel video, and then someone can enter the room and do whatever they have to do to the guy, or the person, whatever it is. And then, they can make up whatever story, and they just co-opt the coroner's office. And so there's that. So there's a connection here between Bob Saget, because they're both hotel room deaths, right? And of course, now there's this 666. I mean, there's a devil worshiping things, sacrificial stuff. I mean, it's all, there's some COVID stuff wrapped up into it as well, right? All these things are wrapped up into one nice little package that is happened in a foreign country in a hotel room where, You're never going to get the truth like with the great comedian Bob Saget and all these A-lists like Chris Rock coming out. You know, Chris Rock was a real comedian, and I don't know what his relationship with Bob Saget is, but Netflix is, you know, come on. Like, you just can't get rid of the guy. Bob Saget, who had a sucky career, he was the ultimate sellout, right? The guy's Penn and Teller, the guy Penn, who's sort of a, you know, he's got all this devil-worshipping stuff himself. He's a very proud atheist. Penn gives this, you know, this, he's talking about Bob Saget being this dickless dad on Full House. And he goes, that's not the real Saget. The Saget that he knows, right? It's the grossest, most vulgar, most sort of evil, degenerate person he knows. And he plays this, you know, this weak, what he considers a weak, you know, fake, you know, dad on this show, right? And Bob Saget is like one of the biggest sellouts from what he presented as a comedian and what he, you know, faked in terms of his career on that horrible show. And so, like, why are they celebrating the sellout, right? Like, Bob Saget was a complete different person. And it wasn't like he was a great actor, right? That show sucked, and he, you know, it was a moneymaker, and whatever it wasn't art or something, you know. He was like a sellout. I mean, if you're going to say one thing we know about Bob Saget, is that he's a sellout. But this guy will never sell out. Aaron Carter shows off a giant butterfly face tattoo in honor of his late sister. And remember, his sister died of, this guy right there. Never forget his sister, these moons and stuff going on. There he was when he was a Nickelodeon rapper. But she died of weird circumstances. I covered that as well. I think she was a drug addict. There he is getting the tattoo. And, you know, there he is. He's got a boxing glove necklace for his wonderful, his fighting. Is that his sister there? Is that his, this is his dude right here. And they've had some domestic abuse issues. One of my viewers sent me this. There's a demon in all of us. Keith Richards on Facing Down Death and more. He says there's a demon in all of us, but, you know, Keith, in some of us, it's a little bit more prevalent. In some of us, it's taken a little bit more control. You know, they always talk about demons. A number of these celebrities. Alec Baldwin talks about demons all the time. I got to check it out, Alex, in Instagram page. Not today, but I'll do that soon. I was just thinking about that the other day. Is he gone dark on Instagram? Kanye still, there's nothing from Kanye. That's sort of disappearing. And then this one, Amy Schumer reveals she has a hair pulling disorder. I've carried so much shame. And she has a new show coming out, so she has to give them something. This is the story, the big story. I think everyone has a big secret, and that's mine. She's a hair puller, and I'm proud that my big secret only hurts me because, you know, this is like what I've said before. When someone's traumatized and they have abuse, they can choose to cope, find some way to cope with it. They can hurt other people, or they can hurt themselves, right? And you can make a case that Amy Schumer's degraded humor and some of the things she's talked about in terms of her abortion jokes, but then she tries to, you know, become super mom, like all these things. You know, her being a part of this culture hurt everybody. I'm proud that my big secret only hurts me, but it's been what I've carried so much shame about for a long time. She's been pulling her hair out. She likes to pull her hair out. You know, it's one step above the biting the fingernails, and she's releasing it. Amy Schumer uses Hulu Dramedy to expose her big secret, the life of Beth. And she's, you know, got some sort of, I guess this is on Netflix or something. Like, of course it would be. And she's a hair puller. She pulls her hair. Sad Dumpling. We knew Sad Dumpling was sad about something. And this is coming out. Netflix series Life of Beth. And so there's that. Then from the New York Post, Putin's speech in Poland is a catastrophe. So I'll probably get to that tomorrow. We'll see. I might have time today. So when I do these screen videos, whatever it is, right? The screen flow videos where I've got this screen capture app on the Apple computer is so much better than anything that Microsoft offers. My life got a lot better when I switched to Apple, at least easier. And there's a period of time where I'm, whatever time I make the screen flow thing, which was this morning, about 2 hours ago, and then the time I edit the video, and during that time period, almost always some more information comes to me. Either an idea pops in my head, and it's not random, right? There's a divine connection for me to make these videos, and it cuts out a lot of time. So I'll remember something in my video yesterday, I had all these, I just have all these memories of things that played into that editing of the corn pop part and what was the other guy's name? Corn pop and T-Bone, right? That whole segment, there's memories that made it a lot easier for me, and where it was, and there's that CNN clip I put in there where Biden says he's gonna put you all back in chains. I remember that, and that was key for the other thing. And the other thing that happened in that, when Biden was talking about himself being a lawyer, that happened randomly. I thought I was at the spot where he was going to talk about corn pop, but I was at the wrong spot in that video. I chose to use the long one, and that played perfectly. I mean, literally the timing of that thing was something I couldn't even orchestrate, and I didn't even know that was there. So it just worked out that Cory Booker was talking about the judge having the character to go from the lucrative law firm, private law firm, to being a public defender. He said, "Who do that?" And then Joe Biden right after said he did the same thing, and that was just totally random. I didn't know that was going to happen. It happened on its own. So there's a flow to it. It makes my job a lot easier. And so between the period of making this screen flow, screen capture and me editing it, I saw a video that popped up on my YouTube feed, and it was to Dave Grohl and this his drummer Taylor Hawkins, who just died. And I didn't know Dave Grohl was a part of Nirvana. And so I just, I kind of missed out on that whole thing. I got into Pearl Jam for a little bit. But, I wasn't really into that whole grunge rock, whatever it was. And I don't know any songs by the Foo Fighters. But Dave Grohl has now had two bandmates who've died at a young age. Because Taylor Hawkins is a lot younger than Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl said he was the fifth drummer for Nirvana in this Conan O'Brien. There's nothing worth me showing you a clip of it, but just the information I got from it. And that Dave Grohl, when he came up with the term Foo Fighters, was making an album by himself. He played all the instruments, and he did all the vocals. So it's his band, and he has more control and is more economically compensated. And they hired a bunch of various, instrumentalists like this other guy. Dave Grohl played the drums for Nirvana, but he hired this guy, Taylor Hawkins. So Dave Grohl was much older, much more well-known and connected. And so he had control over this band. And he makes this, Studio 666 movie, and the trailer comes out maybe 3-4 months ago. I don't know when the movie's going to be released, but I assume it's either been released or sometime soon. And then his second bandmate dies. And Dave Grohl's really into the, Voldemort. I mean, I just disliked the guy when I heard him interviewed. It was just something about him. And so that information is, I never know when to, if I get new information, I might edit it in the video. Sometimes I'll say this is an edit. Sometimes I'll just put it in there. But sometimes it's just there's a flow to the video. Because it segued from me saying that Dave Grohl was a sellout, and then I segued into saying this guy will never sell out. It was, Aaron Carter. And I like that segue because I thought it was funny. So I, waited to put that part at the end of the video. But the bigger thing I wanted to talk about here is, Amy Schumer pulling her hair, and you find out about these celebrities and these, if you knew anything real about the politicians, and any of these famous rich people, they all have messed up psychological aberrations. Like she was saying that she's proud that her aberration doesn't hurt other people, but her internal world is screwed up, right? I mean, everybody's crazy, but these guys are all really crazy, right? They all talk about their inner demons, and they all have lots of issues, and there's just trauma, and what people think of as Illuminati blood sacrifices. Some of the things just happen naturally. There's just a lot of trauma, and like you think Dave Grohl, he has two people around him, and his band now, he has much more control and influence, and he's had two people that have died tragic deaths, right? That are not so easily explained away, and so like he's a part of that thing, right? He's and he's embraced the 666 thing in this movie. And so these people who are celebrities are just have, like, everyone's crazy, but, it's just a world that makes you crazy. It's a system that, it's an unnatural system, and it all affects us in one way or another, and we have to cope with it. And then there's electromagnetic poisoning and all that other stuff, right? But going back to this Amy Schumer thing, she has this, whatever it is, this coping mechanism, which is self-harm, which is pulling out her hair. And there's a reason behind that. Like that's somebody glitching out and like not being able to cope, right? And so whatever's going on in her internal world, she's a fake divish. She got arrested and all that stuff. We've seen that, in the past with their, whatever that thing I called the sad dumpling protest, right? That fake protest. But she has all that stuff in her, and they all do. And they share it with people. I've talked about Billie Eilish having night terrors where she dreams of these monsters, and then she writes music and makes videos based in this, monstrous internal life that she has. And so that's why I talk about the heartfulness meditation and cleaning one's internal world, right? That there needs to be some sort of reworking of everyone's internal system because of the damage done by the system, but also, by the beast, but also because people have been screwed up for thousands of years, right? There needs to be something that brings us up to, we have higher levels we're not reaching on the spiritual realm of existence. We have much more capacity than we're embracing. Like I said in this other video recently, how many saints are there? Like, how many saints do you know? Right? Like, there should be, if God is inside of us, which God is, then there should be a lot of saints, right? There should be at least a number of people that are higher developed beings, and you just don't see it, right? Because there's like an element that we just go to the lowest level. We seek the abyss. And, you see this in Hollywood. Like, you could call Hollywood seeking the abyss, right? Plunging into the rabbit hole instead of reaching up and becoming a better version of yourself. And that's what needs to happen. So it has to happen on an internal level because our internal worlds are manifesting the world we have now. And whether we want to blame it all on the controllers, we can't deny our participation because they need everybody's internal worlds to help create. We're all manifesting this reality right now. And the way the world works is based on what's inside of us. What we see outside is what's inside of us. And what's inside of us is not good because we see what outside of us is kind of a nightmare, right? And so, it needs to be something where we now jump a level. Like we have to go up to a higher level that all of this kind of stuff, even in the next Kali Yuga, it won't be nearly as bad as this because everybody's soul and the orientation of people will have reached a higher level. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.